The Elimination Chamber has now come and gone. There are no other stops on the road to WrestleMania, which is now in about 6 weeks, and we have a lot to talk about from last night's event. I didn't watch it in real time. If you followed me on X, which, by the way, you can at wrestling_audio, I didn't provide really many thoughts until I had seen the event, which was earlier this morning. And I tried to stay away from spoilers and see what the outcome was for myself. And I have to say, I have a mixed reaction to this event, which I think most of us do with every event. You love some stuff, you hate some stuff. And generally, I think the wrestling was good. I don't care about LA Knight's botch. People are making a big deal about it. Who cares? It's actually understandable given the scenario he was in. There's a pod right behind him, so he didn't have the usual space he thought he did, and he slipped, and he made the best of it. I really don't care about that. LA Knight has had botches in the past, too, with the top rope. If you remember, he's done this before. It might have been with Sheamus or something, a match he had. That top rope is his enemy right now. I would stay away from it. But I don't care about that. That doesn't mean anything to me. The botch is what it is. There was some other good stuff on the show, too. I mean, you had, I think, a really good Finn Balor CM Punk match. Physical. You had a better than expected AJ Lee and Becky Lynch match. And the women's match, look, you had the outcome you thought you would. And it was the right outcome. You had a men's match that you knew was going to come down to either Cody or Randy. And we all know it ended up being Randy, which was, I think, a solid choice. Now, it doesn't really matter, I think, who wins this, because we have now a new championship match for Friday. It's going to be Cody Rhodes versus Drew McIntyre for the Undisputed Championship. And whether it's Cody or Drew coming out of that, what did we all talk about weeks ago? It doesn't really matter who wins the chamber, if it's Cody or Randy, or even who wins this Friday, whether it's Cody or Drew, because I think that match is going to end in a disqualification, which is going to just lead to having Aldis lose his mind even further at Drew and putting him in a triple threat match, which may lead to a fatal four-way with Jacob Fatu. So no matter what detours they take on the road to WrestleMania here for the SmackDown side of things anyway, for the main event there, doesn't really matter. Because you have the same players in the room at the end of the day in that match. They're just putting the pieces together differently. But they know what the ultimate picture is going to be, and that's likely a multi-man triple threat or fatal four-way at WrestleMania. So don't be deterred if you still you think you're missing out on Cody Rhodes in the main event of WrestleMania. He's going to be there. It's going to be a triple threat. Don't worry, even if he loses on Friday, and he probably will, or there'll be a disqualification intentionally on Drew's part to keep the championship, and then that's when Aldis will come out and do what he does. And so that doesn't really matter. And Randy Orton will be there, obviously, because he won the Elimination Chamber. So Orton is guaranteed to be there, and it's going to be Orton right now versus Drew. But of course, you're going to have Cody there, because otherwise, what do you have Cody do? What else is Cody Rhodes going to do at WrestleMania? There's just not enough time, I don't think, to build him anywhere, and it's not going to be against Brock Lesnar. We've been down that road. So, overall, I thought that the matches, I think, were well laid out, and the outcomes were safe. The outcome of Becky Lynch and AJ Lee we'll get into in a little bit as I go through the details of the matches. But before we get to any of those matches, which, again, I thought were well done, well executed, is the disaster dump fire of the box reveal. I don't want to hear from anybody that this is just his gimmick. It's supposed to be obnoxious, or it's supposed to be over the top. It's supposed to be the way it is. I don't want to hear any of that. Number one, the way the box was revealed. One of the lights was out at the bottom, so that wasn't a good start. And then there was a coffin. You know, some of us are thinking Undertaker, you know, and then behind it, clearly it was not an actual opening of a box, because behind the box was the actual backstage area. So the box wasn't actually open so much as was being used as like a entrance way for a bunch of people backstage. So I think that was horrible, just in and of itself. Even if it wasn't a bad reveal, if it was Chris Jericho somehow, but a bunch of people came out, stupid. Also, it's not just one person. It was apparently a bunch of people in this box. Just ridiculous. And I know that, well, that's the point. Okay, well, I don't know how to put this. Actually, no, I do know how to put this. This was an abomination of a reveal. Number one, you did it on a PLE, which amped up the expectations even higher. When you ramp up the expectations higher and you deliver this hot garbage, you should get booed out of the building, and that's exactly what happened to Danhausen. Now, do I feel bad for him? I mean, not really. I know people are saying, oh, don't blame him. Well, I mean, he agreed to this gimmick. He helped formulate it. It's horrible. I don't want to hear that it's supposed to be comical. Comedy doesn't belong in wrestling by design. If it happens organically or it happens by accident, fine. But to purposefully put in organic or try to put in forced comedy segments, it will not work 9 times out of 10, and sometimes 10 times out of 10. Comedy and wrestling don't belong unless it just happens by happenstance. But to make an actual entire gimmick out of this, and I did not watch any of him. I know he was on the independent circuit. He was in AEW for a few years. I don't care. I don't care. This gimmick doesn't make it any better. This is a horrible gimmick. Now you're saying, well, give it a chance. I don't need to. I've seen everything I need to make a judgment call on this. And this is an abomination of professional wrestling. This is even worse than Vince McMahon could ever concoct. And he's come up with some horrible stuff, as we all know, to try to make things funny. Food fights, Otis, a lot of stuff that was just bad. But this is an entire gimmick where you have a bunch of people dancing. I mean, it felt like I was watching not even community theater. That may be giving it too much credit. It felt like I was watching an elementary school play. And I'm supposed to feel humor from this. I'm supposed to be entertained. I don't even know what segment of the audience they were promoting this for. I don't know. Even young children would probably not know what to make of this. It was embarrassing. And I don't know how to process this beyond it was just horrible. I don't want to hear, give it a chance. I don't want to hear any of that because you can't make this good. It may get a few laughs from a few people, and that's fine. But I think to the mass viewing audience, this is a mockery of professional wrestling. You have a guy come out in a cape and a vampire outfit with a bunch of supporting cast members that are dancing around, horrible music. I hope the crowd continues to shit all over this. I hope they do. This deserves to get shit on every time it's put out in front of an audience, especially the way, again, you put the expectations that it could be Chris Jericho or that it's something exciting, some big return. And it's Danhausen that 99% of the people in the audience, I shouldn't say 99, probably 85% of the people in the audience are going, who? I'm sorry, who is this guy? And you are setting yourself up for a disastrous debut. And that's exactly what we got, and it's what it deserved. I feel no sympathy for anyone involved, including Danhausen himself. Yeah, he's not responsible necessarily for the creative, but he's complicit in the actual creation of this horrible character. I mean, I could not design something worse. It's the worst of all worlds. Bad music. It's trying to be funny when it's not, which is just a cardinal sin in wrestling. And it thinks it's funny. It thinks that it's placating to some subsegment of the audience when it's not. Tell me the demographic, please. Describe in detail who this is for. And then make a case for that. I don't want to hear, well, this show's for everybody. There's a little bit of something for everybody. This is for no one. This is for no one. So this segment was just god-awful, and I wanted to say that up front because it deserves all the scorn and ridicule and humiliation that it deserves. You should be embarrassed watching. If you don't feel any embarrassment watching that segment, You're not a human being. You're some kind of alien creature. You cannot tell me to give it a chance well, you haven't seen anything yet, right? You're prejudging. No, I'm judging. I'm judging it. And I've come to the very logical and definitive conclusion that this is a shit pile of a gimmick. And I hope it fails, and fails horrifically bad. Now, does that mean Danhausen can't come up with some other gimmick or rebrand himself? No. In fact, I hope he does, but I don't think he is, and they're going to just move forward with this. But you have this buildup for 3 weeks or so of this crate that people have speculations of and hopes of, and just anticipation, and it was a good hook. And you then reveal it at a major PLE right before WrestleMania, and it's just a pile of dog shit, and we're all supposed to not say anything. I'm sure Jacob Fatu is sitting there scorning the fans for us not liking this, because according to him, we're not allowed to say anything unless it's something nice. So he can fuck off. And I've kind of turned this, by the way, into a adult show because it deserves this. All right. I'm kind of moving my show into a bit more of an adult content because I don't want to censor myself anymore. I think these words are strong enough that it needs to come out. That's how I feel. So anyway, I hope you have enjoyed the PLE. I definitely did, for the most part, up until that point of the horrible reveal. Yes, we saw Seth Rollins as well, which we all knew that it was going to be Seth Rollins or it was a bust. And the reveal of who it was on SmackDown was horrible. It was, I know I'm being very negative off the top here, but the reveal on SmackDown was just horrific as well. It was akin to Hornswoggle being revealed as the anonymous Raw GM 15 years ago. This was that bad. I don't even see the need. Now, I know they were doing it as, the guy's been revealed, but no, there's more than one. I don't need to see someone in a mask ever again. There was no need to have multiple people in masks doing this. There's no need for that. I don't quite understand why there was a need to have multiple people in masks ultimately to lead to Seth Rollins. Just, we all know it's going to be Seth at the end of the day. Just why? I mean, whatever. It was a disastrous reveal last week, but now Seth is back. So we have one piece, a large piece of the puzzle back. We still have two major injuries in Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed. The Brawns are still out, and they'll be out for the foreseeable future. But Seth is back, and he attacks Logan Paul. Now, is Logan Paul going to be going one-on-one with Seth? I guess, maybe. Seth keeps going into the vision and looking at, okay, who's the next biggest star up? Who's the next big star up? And if Logan Paul gets injured, what is it going to be? Seth Rollins versus Austin Theory? And then if Austin Theory goes down, is he going to take on Paul Heyman? I mean, Seth's match at WrestleMania is in a continuous decline for reasons outside of his control because of the fact that injuries continue to happen. So Seth versus Logan Paul could absolutely be on the table. We'll see. But we've got some other stuff to go on and talk about here. Some good stuff. All right. This is not just going to be a complete bitch fest for the entire show, and I don't want it to be. So let's go through the results here of the PLE, which, again, I thought was good. Generally, it was good with kind of a mixed bag towards the end, especially as we talked about with the reveal. All right. So let's go through the PLE, and we'll go through it step by step here and give you a little bit more of a introspective into what I thought about it. We started the show with a Hannah Haven, I don't know who that is, stood in the ring and performed the national anthem, and then Michael Cole opened the show while various shots of the city was shown. And Cole said the United Center was hosting a WWE event for the first time in 32 years. Cole, who was on commentary, then talked about a sellout, almost 20,000 people. And we then had Tiffany Stratton versus Rhea Ripley versus Alexa Bliss versus Asuka versus Kiana James versus Raquel Rodriguez for the women's match, which you all know, anytime there's a men and women's equivalent match, the women are always going to go first, almost always. But the match, I think, was good. The first elimination here came with, let's see here, Alexa Bliss eliminated by Kiana James in 13 minutes, which was a bit of a surprise, but they want to give Kiana James a little bit of a moment here, and they did. Asuka and Kiana James were then eliminated by Raquel in 16 minutes and 15 seconds in a double elimination. A little bit of a tricky spot there because both women's shoulders should be to the mat, not on each other in order to consider it an elimination. Whatever. Both were eliminated by Raquel, who had a dominant performance. And then Stratton avoids a Tejada bomb. And Rodriguez was ultimately eliminated by Tiffany Stratton at the 20-minute mark after Stratton hit Rodriguez with the prettiest moonsault. And then it came down to Ripley and Stratton. And the finish ends up seeing, as we know, Rhea Ripley winning. But we had, Stratton, who at this point had a bloody nose, hit a swanton on Ripley. Stratton went for her finish, the moonsault, and Ripley stood up and shoved Stratton into the side of the pod. And then Ripley got Stratton back inside the ring, hit the riptide, and got the victory. And I thought it was a good match. Just good. It wasn't great. It was as expected, as advertised, not anything more, not anything less. It was exactly what it should have been. Didn't over-deliver. I don't think it under-delivered either. And the right person won. We now have Rhea Ripley taking on Jade Cargill. And that's the right move. Again, breakout performance, a little bit from Kiana James. Good. I mean, her biggest match easily to date in the company. Raquel Rodriguez with the double elimination had her moment. Alexa Bliss, yeah, she was used a bit of as a pawn here. Won't hurt her, won't help her. Just kind of keep her at the same level, I think, with Alexa Bliss being eliminated at 13 minutes by Kiana James. But nobody really was hurt by this, and I think it only helped. It only helped. Kiana James helped Raquel, and helped, obviously, Rhea Ripley move back into the main event scene. One thing about Tiffany is, because I'm on a roll today with just hammering people who deserve it, and I do too sometimes. I'm not saying I'm immune, but since these people are in the public eye and put out public videos about things that I'm about to talk about, then you kind of deserve it. Tiffany Stratton, as we all know, is a raging narcissist, and I mean that in a not good way. When I'm talking about like as an actual person, she seems like a complete narcissist, which, again, take that for what it's worth. That's my interpretation of the things she puts on social media. Her boyfriend, as we all know, is no longer Kaiser. Ludwig Kaiser, they broke up a while ago. She now has a new boyfriend, another wrestler. I forget his name. Not important. He ends up getting her eyes, Tiffany's eyes, tattooed on his forearm. And when asked about that, she said it was kind of her idea because he loves tattoos. And, so he did it. And she loves it. First of all, that dude's a moron. He's a moron. I mean, are we never going to learn to not tattoo another significant other initials or anything that reminds you of them? This is doomed to fail. Also, the fact that it was Tiffany's idea is the pinnacle of narcissism. Why would you want your eyes transcribed permanently on someone else's body unless you are self-obsessed? So it's bad all around. She seems incredibly superficial, very much into who she is and how she looks, and I don't even think, honestly, the more I look at her, the less attractive she becomes. I mean, it looks like she's already had work done when she hasn't had work done. That's how much makeup she wears. It looks like her body's preparing for what it's going to look like after she has actual work done. Unless she's had actual work done, I'm not privy to that. Maybe she's gotten Botox or whatever. I'm not sure. But since she put that out, I felt compelled to comment on it because I can. So there, I am not even close to a Tiffany Stratton fan, and she has cooled off, not just obviously in a personal note, but also in a professional note, has really cooled off from a fan support perspective. She's admitted this too, I think, in other interviews, that she has felt stale, and she has. Over the last several months, she has kind of just been there. Ever since her match with Charlotte last year, was it? She's kind of been on the downslide and then plateaued. So, look, could she re-elevate herself and back into a position that fans really want to support you in? Yeah, you could. I think she's in a position more now to have fans start to turn on her. I think that's where she's at. And I hope they do. All right. That'll certainly get some of you commenting on the show. We then have Becky Lynch and AJ Lee for the Intercontinental Championship. This match went 15 minutes and 40 seconds. So a little bit longer, a few minutes longer than I expected. AJ Lee wins the Intercontinental Championship, to most people's surprise, because they figured it was going to go to WrestleMania. I did too. I was duped. And they certainly could have Becky Lynch. I think we had an emailer over on the mailbag show last week comment how AJ's going to win and then Becky Lynch will win it back and then AJ will take it back at WrestleMania. I guess you could go that way, but I don't see the need for that. I think babyfaces in chase mode to WrestleMania are a tried and true formula. And here's what's also more concerning than even the AJ win, which I shouldn't even label it as concerning. I think surprising is a better way to label it, is the reaction that AJ got in her entrance in Chicago. In Chicago was putrid. And I'm not pushing this on AJ. I'm no AJ Lee fan from a personal perspective either. And I'll get to some comments about what she said afterwards in the post show, which is again where Nick Aldis announced Cody Rhodes' championship match on Friday. But in the post show, I want to talk about some things she said. But I don't even fault AJ for this. It was just a bit surprising. You're in Chicago, and AJ Lee gets a lukewarm reaction at best. I mean, they panned to the crowd as if they were going to stand up and explode for her. And it was embarrassed. They just didn't, which kind of surprised me because it's AJ Lee in Chicago having a singles match for the first time in 10 years in a championship match. And you guys are just like, oh, hey, AJ. And I guess maybe those kinds of crowds are hard, right? This is one of the large market crowds that are sometimes a little rough. But it was surprising to me. When she won the belt, people were happy, and she didn't get a negative reaction there, but it was a bit more subdued than you would have thought with AJ Lee. And the match itself was good. I really, you know what? I have to give AJ her flowers. Don't like her as for a lot of the things she says and does outside of wrestling, but I can acknowledge her ability in the ring, which I think exceeded my expectations. The finish was nice with the Becky Lynch tapping out, and the referee was knocked down, which you're thinking, okay, here we go. That's about the finish you expected. And then she reapplied the submission and ends up getting the victory with the Black Widow. So I liked it. Was the match smooth? Was it buttery smooth and as if, there was no ring rust? No, it wasn't. There were some clunky things that happened in that match, but I generally, with what we had on the table, Becky Lynch and AJ Lee certainly, I think, exceeded my expectations when it came to the match performance, and credit to both women. I think they did a nice job, despite some of the fumbles and bumbles, which happens. I mean, look at the men's side with LA Knight. It happens. The women more so than the men. Yes, it trends that way. But I got to acknowledge the fact that these two women did a nice job. And if you could forget all of the build to this match of how bad it was, I mean, just record bad, horrible. with how embarrassing some of the segments were and the overacting and just fake. Yes, I said fake. Just completely manufactured emotions that you could tell were nowhere near real. The match over-delivered. So maybe the build not being great and the match being good is a better combination than the build being really good and the match being a stinker. So credit where it's due. And now AJ is the Intercontinental Champion, the Women's Intercontinental Champion, and I do wonder how they're going to move from here. Becky Lynch will clearly be on another kind of, some kind of crusade to get petitions and try to overturn the decision and all the rest of it. And, she may take that road again, but it's going to be AJ Lee versus Becky Lynch in some capacity, maybe a third party involved there at WrestleMania. Which I will say, I don't think AJ Lee is going to hold on to that belt very long. So Becky Lynch could very well win it back at WrestleMania or a third party or fourth party. So we'll see how that all transpires. But it was surprising to see AJ Lee win here. Like, I'm not going to lose my mind, but it was just surprising. All right. Finn Balor, CM Punk, or I'm sorry, before I forget, we did have AJ Lee on the post show. What did she say here? I got to get the quote that what she said. She said that in relation to the fans who put up signs for Larry, the beloved Saint Larry, the dog, the dog that they lost, which again, if you have a family pet that you love, it is sad. I understand. But she said that Larry was, quote, the love of her life. And that, she'll never love like that again. What? But okay. Now I know here he goes on the dog thing again, but let me just try to explain something here. I know many of you have family pets and you love them, and that's awesome. I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm not saying you should treat animals poorly at all. Absolutely not. But if you didn't know any better, you took this out of context, and you didn't know who Larry was, you're thinking, oh my God, was that her brother? Was that her son? Was that her nephew? Somebody she was really close with? Nope, it's just her dog. What her dog? She'll never love like that again. See, this is what happens when you try to supplant an animal with a human being. You pretend to understand what love is when you're applying it from a person to an animal. And when you're childless, you try to, I guess, convince yourself that that's what having a child is like. And it's not. All right. And now if someone's listening here and you don't have a kid and you don't want to have kids, cool. I'm not saying you should. Do what you want. But don't try to tell me if you're childless that it's the same love that you have for an animal, a feral animal that lives in your home, doesn't provide anything, doesn't contribute, can't talk to you, is the same in value and love as a human being. I don't want to hear it. It's not. This is what the childless movement in a nutshell is, right? And I'll just leave it at that because I don't want to go beyond what she said. I could, but I won't for your own listening ears. But I just heard that. I go, of course. I mean, like everything that comes out of her mouth when it comes to just worldview, along with CM Punk talking about the U.S. hockey team and saying how no one wants to get political unless it has to do with your politics. And what they did was political coming out on the world stage. This is a CM Punk thing, not me going into politics. CM Punk said this. And it's like, no, dude, like they're being acknowledged at the White House for winning a goddamn gold medal. That's what's happening. It's not political. Yes, a political figure. The president is a political figure, but he's the leader of the free world in the most important and prestigious house in the United States at the White House. Being acknowledged there is just, it's a great thing for winning a gold medal for the United States of America. But again, when it comes to Phil Brooks and AJ, their worldview is incredibly distorted. As good and intelligent and well spoken as he is on the microphone, he just melts and completely dissolves when it comes to, and same with AJ, like common sense stuff about the real world. And they're totally bought in, to to the other side of the aisle here. But anyway, let's move on. We're going to get to some stuff here that is not about that. The Finn Balor and CM Punk match, by the way, loved it. 20 minutes and 25 seconds. And they had as good of a match as you could have expected. I really enjoyed this. With some of the false finishes, the chemistry that they had. This is awesome chants. Who cares? This is awesome chants stopped meaning anything a long time ago, but they were deserved here. We had some of the spots. So Balor went up to the top and hit the coup de grace, covered Punk for a near fall. Balor then showed frustration, and Cole wondered if Balor was thinking twice about telling Dominic and JD that he wanted to go it alone. And then Punk hit Balor with a GTS, but Balor tumbled to the ropes on the floor. And that's when we had Balor follow up with a shotgun drop kick and a sling blade, and Punk rolled through the barricade into the timekeeper's area. Eventually, we had Punk get put in a sharpshooter, Punk put Balor in a sharpshooter, and we had another GTS get the job done. Really nice here. Just very good. A 3.5, 3 3/4 stars out of 5. Really, just really nice match. And credit to both men again, despite the fact I don't agree with either of their worldviews. I mean, a lot of these men, outside of pro wrestling and in the ring and on the mic, I don't agree with anything. It doesn't matter. This was very good because I can compartmentalize here. I can be very objective, and I enjoyed this match very much. This really helped elevate the PLE to the point where you're like, okay, even if the rest of the matches stink, like you can hang your hat on this as a bright spot. So the right person won. The crowd was really into this. And a couple surprises here. Number one, there was no Dominic to come and screw Finn Balor, which I think surprised a lot of people because we're waiting for the Finn Balor Dominic implosion. We've been waiting for it for actual years at this point. Didn't happen, but that's okay. We can get there. We can get there tomorrow night on Raw if we wanted to, and I hope we do. That's a program that's it's got to be, the trigger has to be pulled on that. I mean, just end of story. So Finn Balor again showed you why he can be a main eventer. He is a main eventer anytime he wants to be, and it was just a nice performance from both men. So that was a surprise. Number two, and this isn't so much of a surprise as it is, well, a surprise that it even entered my brain. AJ Lee comes out and she celebrated with her husband. Very genuine, very heartfelt moment. And it was. I'm not being facetious or being a jerk. They were very heartfelt and very happy for each other, both celebrating as champions. And it was great. From a visual standpoint, the crowd loved it. They got to celebrate in Chicago. Her, as the newly crowned Intercontinental Champion. He as the retainee of the World Heavyweight Championship. But there was a part of me that all of a sudden I'm thinking to myself, and I had not thought of this before. I'm thinking to myself, what if AJ just turns on Punk right here? Kicks him right in the balls. And then her face changes and then hits him in the head with the championship. I mean, now, what would be the reason for that? I don't know. I haven't thought that through. I haven't thought about, oh, wow. What would the implications? What's the goal, the end goal for that? I haven't thought that through. I was just thinking that as like a shocking moment of AJ turning on Punk. And as I'm thinking about it, maybe it was to really soften Punk up emotionally as he heads to WrestleMania, where Roman could take advantage of that. CM Punk would be, and it would kind of turn Roman heel in a little bit of a way because you'd feel sympathy for Punk, where he's, he just got dumped and humiliated and kicked in the nuts by his wife on national television. She turned on him. She's divorcing him, whatever. And now he has to deal with that emotional baggage and struggle heading into WrestleMania. And you can see he's dejected and he doesn't know if he can make it, and you're trying to root for him, So I don't know. I just thought about that as like it would be something that if I were in a board meeting and somehow invited to be part of the creative team, which would never happen, but I would pitch this in one of the meetings, like, hey guys, off the wall thought. What about this? Just, I don't know. It would have been shocking if that had happened, but didn't, obviously. And I'm not expecting that it would have. So we then have Randy Orton, Knight, Cody Rhodes, Javon Evans, Trick Williams, and Logan Paul in the Elimination Chamber match, the men's side of things. The winner gets a shot at the championship at WrestleMania 42. The eliminations went as follows. Javon Evans was eliminated by Logan Paul at 16 minutes after he hit the pulverizer. And by the way, I looked up why he's called the Maverick, why he calls himself the Maverick. And apparently it's just a run on his pet, like he had a pet or did have a pet or whatever. I don't know if he's still alive. A parrot. Logan Paul owned a parrot that was named Maverick. It's like, okay, but why? Have we just all accepted that he calls himself the Maverick? Well, what does that mean? Beyond you just adopted your own pet's name. So your nickname's after a parrot? Why? Maybe somebody could explain this to me and it was explained, or there was some cooler meaning or deeper meaning or more masculine meaning behind it. I don't know. But I don't know why we're supposed to all just accept it. It's like he just kind of came up with the name, but there's no depth behind it. Anyway, Logan Paul is incredibly talented, so there's that. But Javon Evans was eliminated by Logan Paul, as I said, at 16 minutes. And I thought he would get a little bit longer in the match, but he didn't. It was about elevating Paul here because he's one of the two remaining members of the Vision. So he's next in line here. But LA Knight was then eliminated by Logan Paul at 18 and a half minutes. So that was a bit of a surprise. LA Knight being eliminated that early on was surprising and just continues to hammer at the fans who think that LA Knight's going to eventually main event WrestleMania. It just doesn't seem like it's ever going to be in the cards for Knight. That doesn't mean he can't win a top championship, but certainly not at WrestleMania, not this year. And so LA Knight being eliminated so quickly was surprising, but it tells you they have more of a plan for Paul than they do Knight at WrestleMania. And then we had Trick Williams eliminated by, again, Logan Paul. So Logan Paul here, 3 eliminations. Then Logan Paul was eliminated by Cody Rhodes at 23 minutes after he was put down by a masked mystery man again after a stomp, and Logan Paul was eliminated, as I said. Which, as I talked about earlier in the show, was revealed to be Seth Rollins. After, again, wasn't there another mystery man that came in during the match? It's just, who cares? I don't need another mystery by WWE again because they have under-delivered at almost every turn. So, I don't need a box. I don't need a masked man. I don't need a mystery attacker. Just until you're ready to actually deliver in a big way on those promises, stay away. I mean, we've had 2 storylines, separate storylines, where they've really flopped them with the masked man. One was Austin Theory. That was, I mean, for all intents and purposes, was a failure. And then we have a masked man that we all thought was Seth Rollins that was revealed to be not, and some random dude that, it was Seth Rollins' protege that he's working with, but nobody knows who he really is. Then there was another masked man that was off the trail, and then eventually it was Seth. Look, stop it. Then there was the disaster of as I talked about, the reveal of the box that was delivered to be opened 228. So whatever, they're really like 0 for 4 on that. So we then have it come down to Orton and Rhodes, and after Orton hits Cody with the RKO 1, 2, 3, Orton wins. And you're thinking, okay, maybe Randy's turning heel. Well, he's not turning heel. Anybody that thinks Randy's turning heel right now, no, he has to compete. You can't just, what do you expect Randy to do? Shake his hand and have an arm wrestling contest to decide who's going to win the match? No. I mean, this wasn't Randy doing an after-match beating or kicking him in the nuts. It was just hitting. It was as clean of kind of a sportsman-like finish you could have between the two without tipping your scale into, is that a heel turn? No, he just hit one RKO and that was it. So Randy wins. Doesn't matter. As I said, Cody's going to be injected into it anyway. So that was it. And here's the analysis, by the way, if you want credit where it's due to Pro Wrestling Net. They said about this match, Orton going over was a pleasant surprise. I would have been fine with Cody or Rhea winning, but having both of them go over along with the expected Punk and AJ wins in Chicago would have made this a highly predictable show. The post-match angle and announcement gave Cody a path to WrestleMania. So will it be will it be McIntyre versus Orton, Cody versus Orton, or a multi-person match? We're still 49 days away from WrestleMania weekend, so I like that there's still some mystery regarding the championship match. Overall, this was a strong show. The closing moments and outcome of the men's chamber really put it over the top for me. I'll team up with Jake Barnett okay. So yeah, again, credit to them. They do a nice job here, and I piggyback off of their analysis or off their play-by-play to give you guys my review rather than having write it myself. That doesn't make sense. I have a site that does it for me and does it well, and I give them credit. So free advertising, I think it's a fair trade. And they don't even know I'm doing it. If they did, I don't think they'd have a problem with it. But so there. Overall, I would concur. I don't think it was a super strong show, but it was a good show. Some of the downsides were some botches that happen. Some one of the worst reveals of all time in Danhausen. And it's not just a bad reveal. It's also just a horrible gimmick, as I've gone over. But some very solid wrestling, some predictable but correct outcomes. No Chris Jericho. I think maybe we should just stop thinking about it until WrestleMania, at which point maybe things will be unlocked for Chris and he can return. No other big returns, no Rock, no Austin. Those may come along in the next 49 days as well. No Brock Lesnar, although we know Brock's schedule now as we head into WrestleMania season. He'll be at Monday Night Raw. Is it starting not this week? Is it next week? I think it's next week. And then pretty much every Raw until WrestleMania, Brock will be there. And they're running that open challenge. So they've got that to hang their hat on. And that's kind of it. I think as far as injury returns, we have now Seth back. And he could probably slide right in with Logan Paul. He can't, unfortunately, go against Breakker, as we all know. But is it possible Braun Breakker comes back? Man, I'd love to think so, but I'm going to count him out, I think, until after WrestleMania. Bronson Reed, obviously, is out. He just got injured. He had a major surgery to repair his bicep. He is certainly not going to be at WrestleMania. That's a lock and throw away the key type of decision. But is Bronson Reed, is there even a hint that he could be there? I'm sorry, Braun Breakker, maybe. I'm not a doctor. They know better than I do whether they could maybe even have him show up. I think it would be very advantageous to have him show up at WrestleMania. So can he heal himself in the next 50 days to at least make an appearance? I hope so, because I'm very high on Braun Breakker, like many of us. I see a massive baby face in his future. He'll be a heel in the interim once he battles with Seth upon his return. But Braun Breakker, I think, is set to be one of the biggest baby faces the company has seen in years upon his return. Again, even though he'll get booed against Seth, it won't be long before the fans are like, look, this is our guy. We are going to get behind him. We are going to get behind him, and there's not really much you can do about it. So there you go. What would I give the show overall when it comes to star rating out of 5 stars, 5 being WrestleMania 17? I would give it probably a 3-star. I'd say 3. Good, not great, but above average, a good show. Good in terms of wrestling content, good in terms of storyline progression, and yes, good in terms of predictability. I don't look at predictability as inherently bad. Yes, it's fun when it's unpredictable and it's the right decision, but that's a hard combination to always have. You can't. So I think it was correct booking. A big letdown in the reveal of the box, embarrassing letdown, but some solid wrestling and good decision booking wise. But it does lend you also as a fan. And this is not just for WrestleMania, but as generally the quality of the product has decreased, and yet the prices to attend these lower quality events have increased. There has to be a breaking point. Again, not just for WrestleMania. WrestleMania is a extreme example because it's the biggest show of the year and they try to squeeze every dollar out of everybody's pockets that they can. But I'm talking just a regular Monday Night Raw or a PLE that's not even a major PLE. Generally, the product quality has decreased, and yet it's never been more expensive. I think that's actually something that is just countrywide, a problem where things have never been more expensive, yet the quality of products and services have gone down. That inverse relationship is problematic when it comes to companies trying to take advantage of maybe cheaper labor or just complacency, laziness, combination of things, and yet trying to charge more. Because eventually the consumer is going to fight back, whether it's WWE or whether it's anything, any industry. You're going to have the consumer eventually go, you know what? Screw this. I'm not fighting back. I'm not going to be tipping out of. Oh, no, that's another issue I have is just the tipping culture we have today. Yeah, the amount of tipping that it's expected or almost shame people into doing. I'm done with that. You go to Starbucks, you go through the drive-through, and if especially you're using your debit card, whatever, they'll pull out the little the point of sale little card reader, right? And you have to scan your card or whatever. And then they'll say, oh, it's just going to ask you a question. And as they're staring at you, you have this option to tip them. And you're sitting there going, well, if I say no, they're going to know I did no, so what do you do? So you're almost guilted into tipping, which I have just actually said, like, screw you. I'm not tipping should be something that for when you've done something above and beyond, or you've done something very well. It should be something that not ahead of time you do. Now tips are expected before the service is rendered. Tips are and were purposed for giving those who have done an exceptional job an extra kind of pat on the back. And now it's looked at as, if you don't do it just as a default, you are causing some kind of undue financial burden on that particular person. That's not how tipping should work. Tipping is everywhere and it's out of control. Tipping should be for when you have received a service that is exceptional, not just default because the actual organization doesn't want to pay the employees what they want to be able to pay them, and now they're expecting the consumer to pick up the tab. It's not how this works. Tipping is everywhere, and it's out of control. Anyway, I don't know how I got on that. I'll end it there. But thank you, everybody. I know this is a bit of a bitch fest for certain things, but again, I thought it was a very respectable, and it was a good show. Now on to Monday Night Raw. Don't forget, this week is a bit of a weird one for me. I'll be going on a quick 3-day trip somewhere, and I'll be going Thursday morning. So that means Wednesday, I might be able to pump out one retro show, and then Friday is going to be weird, and into the weekend could be a little weird as well with the weekend review and the mailbag as well. So what I'm going to do is on Tuesday, though, since it'll be my last, quote, live show for Raw, I will be reading any emails you guys have reacting to the Elimination Chamber and or Monday Night Raw. So if you have those, I know it's a bit early, but send them to me before Tuesday night, and I'll be able to do a bit of a combination of Raw review and respond to your thoughts and feedback about Chamber and or Monday Night Raw. Email me, mailbag@wwepodcast.com, or send the message directly to me on Patreon. Either way is a good way to do it. And also, speaking of that, if you want to go ad-free, patreon.com/WWE podcast. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk soon.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to wwepodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.